All right. All right. And good day everyone and welcome to today's session of A Course in Miracles, Workbook lesson 178. And greetings, my name is Oliver Blue, as you may know by now, and I am your temporary host, your temporary guide. I am your temporary coach. But most importantly, and what remains unchanged, is I am your permanent self. I am your brother. I am you. And you are me. And we are one. One in God. One in love. One in reality and one in truth. That is a fact. In fact, that is a matter of fact. That is an unchanging, unalterable reality. This whole thought of God is based on oneness. God's entire being has its entire foundation on the reality of oneness, that God is, and there is nothing else. And so all that exists in and as God. And all that God is within that which God creates. That which God creates contain all that God is. Because God's creation process primarily is the extension of its very own self. There's no substitute, there's no additives, there's no duality, there is no two-ness, three-ness, or four-ness, there's no multiplicity. But in the reality of oneness, God encompasses all things, meaning that God is all things. Therefore, the mere fact that we are aware and that we are conscious, that we are alive, that we are a part of this life or aliveness that God is, speaks volumes about who we are. Because based on the foundation of oneness, we must conclude that our existence is a shared part of what and who God is, not something separate, not a separate idea or a separate thought or a separate being, not separated by time and space, not separated by form or formlessness. But our very existence, the mere fact that we are conscious and aware, that we are alive, is the evidence, and it is the substance that we are one with the ever-present God of love ourselves, and that we are the very expression, the express image, the express reality of that one God. That's who we are. This is tremendous news. This is what Jesus meant when he said the good news. Go into the world and what? And share the good news. This is the good news that he was talking about. That we are one with the Father. I and you and me. We're one. The branch is not separate from the vine is not separate from the branch. What flows in the vine flows in the branches. I mean, he used all kinds of parables to express this oneness that we are. It was the basis of his teaching. It had nothing to do with sin and guilt and fear and death. It had nothing to do with that. That's what man did. That's what man thought of his truth. The man saw him as a, as a blasphemer, a sinner. They saw him as a madman. And that's what a frightened, separated person does when the truth comes and they're not open for it. But Jesus knew that their empty accusations didn't have any meaning at all. And so he gave them no value. And he never stopped offering the light and the truth, even in their rejection. And so today is our turn. This is our life. This is our time to bring the truth and the reality to a world that is still asleep in its self-made misery, its self-made suffering, its self-made sickness, its self-made lack and scarcity, its self-made vain imaginings and hallucinations and fantasies. And so we come today bringing the truth that is true always. And as we are winding down in this review session, we only have 2 more to go after this lesson. Just want to remind you that the one major thought that we are using as a foundation to all of these review lessons is this: God is but love. And that's the message that Jesus came to bring. That's the message that he brought, that God is love. He said, not that God is love, he said God is but love. And in other words, that is all God is. He was saying that reality is love. The nature of life is love. The only reality is love. And so, because that is true, the other part of this statement is also true. And so it says, therefore. And so what is it therefore? So the statement, so when you see the word therefore in a statement, it's saying that the first part of the statement and the second part of the statement, that's why it's there, because the two becomes one. That's what it is, therefore. So therefore God is love, therefore so am I. It is almost like it bridges the two into one. Because God is love, therefore are you. Because God is love, you are too. And so this is the foundational thought of God that we have used these prior 7 review lessons, and we'll use it today. And this is our foundation, that God is love, and therefore so am I. So are you. So is all humanity. I like the way that it's put in scripture. I think it is First John. It is First John chapter 1. Um, 1 John chapter 1, verse 5. And it reads, this is the message. This is the good news. This is really what the gospel is. It said, this is the message which we have heard of him, which we have heard, and we declare unto you. That, okay, so it goes back to that which I received, give I unto you. This is the message which we have heard of him and declare unto you, that God is light. And that word light denotes the word light denotes God is awareness. God is consciousness. God is illumination. God is the clarity. God is the understanding. Light means understanding, clarity, awareness, consciousness. God is light. It denotes source. God is source. And so it says, this is the message that we have heard and declare to you. And this is the message that I have heard and embraced for myself. And I'm declaring it here this morning on this workbook lesson 178, that God is light. And in God is no darkness at all. In light, there is no opposite. Darkness is the term we use to denote that which is what? That which is illusion, that which is not real. So God is reality, and in God there is no unreality at all. There is no darkness at all. God is love, and in him there is no unlovingness at all. Another way we can say it. So this is the basis for our review and the central thought for our review period. So as we look at workbook lesson 178, we're going to review two previous workbook lessons, 165 and 166. 165 reads, let not my mind deny the thought of God. Let not my mind deny the thought of God, or deny truth, or deny reality. Let not my mind deny love. Let not my mind deny the knowledge, the knowing. Let not my mind deny the one law, which is the law of God, or the law of love. And we can say that because God is love. God is but love, and therefore so am I. And because God is love, and so are we let not our mind deny the thought of God. And if we look back at workbook lesson 165, we're just going to read a few lines out of it to remind us of the awesome lesson that is. It says, what makes this world seem real except your own denial of the truth that lies beyond? What but your thoughts of misery and death obscure the perfect happiness and the eternal life your Father wills for you? And what could be, or what could hide, what cannot be concealed except illusions? What could keep from you what you already have except your choice to see it not? Denying it is there. The thought of God created you. It belongs to you. By it you live. It is your source of life, holding you one with it. And everything is one with you because it left you not. The thought of God protects you, cares for you, makes soft your resting place, and smooth your way, lighting your mind with happiness and love. Eternity and everlasting life shines in your mind because the thought of God has left you not and still abides with you. And so it is the thought of God, or we can say every thought of God remains with us because it is every thought of God that created us. So we are a God idea, and we remain as God created us. We remain a God idea. We remain every thought of God. We cannot alter it. We cannot change it. We can only deny it. And we can only deny it by entering into a space of illusions, enter into a space of dreams, enter into a space of fantasies and vain imaginings and hallucination. That's the only way that we can experience what we are not. But who would want to do that? Knowing. Who would want to do that? Who would want to have that experience? Who would deny his safety and his peace, his joy and his healing, and his peace of mind? When we deny the thought of God, when we deny the reality of what God created us to be, this is what we're doing. We're denying safety, peace, joy, healing, peace of mind, quiet rest, calm awakening. If we but recognize where they abide. Wouldn't we instantly go where they are found, abandoning all else as worthless in comparison with them? And having found them, would he not make sure they stayed with him? And he remained with them? And then it says, deny not heaven. And so let our mind not wander in a state of denial of the thought of God. We are every thought of God. That's our reality. Because God is but love, and so are we. And so if that's our reality, every thought of God is our reality. And every thought of God remains with us eternally. It says eternally and everlasting. It says eternity and everlasting life shines in our minds. So let us not deny the thought of God. So one main purpose of this course is to remove all the blocks to the awareness of the thoughts of God, which is called love's presence. So one of the main aims of our going through these workbook lessons is to identify and to remove the blocks to the awareness of every thought of God. And thus we are doing that. So in workbook lesson 175, let not my mind deny the thought of God. And so you have something to do with that. We have something to do with that. Where do we choose to focus our thoughts? Where do we choose to send energy? Because our thoughts are energy. Where are we putting our focus? Where are we putting our energy? Where are we putting our thoughts? Are we putting it on that which we made? Are we denying the thoughts of God to put it on that which we made? The choice is ours. So today we choose to let not our mind deny the thoughts of God. Because what? God is but love, and therefore we are love. And so we hold to every loving thought. And then we move to workbook lesson 166, which states, I am entrusted with the gifts of God. I am, notice now, anytime a sentence is started with the word or end with the word I am, it is a reference to our original self. It's a reference to what God created. It's a reference to our true reality. So our true self is entrusted with the gifts of God. Notice now, the ego is not entrusted with the gifts of God. That self that we made, this body identification, this person that believes in separation, it's not entrusted with the gifts. In fact, it don't even aware of the gifts. What is entrusted with the gifts is that which God created. Why? Because he built in the gifts in your creation. As God one creation, that means you are the heir and a joint heir of all that God is. You are an heir of God. You have inherited everything that God is. Not in the future, but now. I mean, it was given to you at creation. It was entrusted with you in the creation process. When God created you like himself, God perfected you. God put his perfect eternal self in you, not as something separate, but as something that is shared. So all the gifts of God were entrusted in your creation. Therefore, they've always been a part of your very nature. What are the gifts of God? What are the gifts of God? It is every thought of God. It is all that God is. It is God's eternal nature. It is God's unchanging nature. It is God's all-knowing. It is God's infinite intelligence. It is everything that the Father is, the Son is. Those are the gifts of God, have been entrusted, meaning God trusts you just as much as he trusts himself with those gifts. Why? Because he knows where he placed them, and they cannot be what? They cannot be changed. They cannot be retrieved. Why? Because God is but love, and so are you. And so it is the nature of love to give all and completely all of its very own self. It is the nature of love to extend its very own reality. It is the nature of God to keep oneness intact, to keep oneness forever, the reality. And so that's why you've never been without all the gifts of God. You've never been without God. You've never been, in reality, nothing but what God created. And if you seem to be, if you have an experience of being something other than that, it would have to be in a dream. It's not a reality. It would have to be a temporary forgetting of who you are. And when you realize that, it's like you say, wow, I've been God's love child all this time. Yes, you have. You'll say, wow, all of those human experience that I had that made me feel so unworthy, that made me feel a sense of separation, a sense of loneliness and guilt and shame and fear. All that was just a dream. Yes. You mean to tell me that all these billions and billions of bodies that have come and have departed from this world, they were all just in a dream? Yes. You mean that I remain intact and just like my Father created me? Yes. You mean that all this time I've been right smack in the heart of God? Yes. 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 All that God has created is yes and amen. So you mean to tell me that I'm okay? Yes. Yes. Do you mean to tell me that I remain as a timeless and formless and perfect and innocent being that God created from the beginning? Yes. Do you mean to tell me that I am sinless and guiltless? Yes. And not only you, but all humanity. Yes. You mean to tell me there's not a hell for me to go to for missing it? Yes. There's not a hell for you to go to. Hell is only made by man within a dream of separation. Yes, yes, yes. And God has entrusted all this in your original creation. And it remains intact. It remained untarnished by the dream of separation. It remains untarnished by the many lifetimes that you have lived trying to find the truth. Why? Because God is but love. Therefore, so am I. And so are you. And so is everyone. What a amazing grace. What an amazing reality. What a truth. What a thought. This one thought, like it says, can save the entire world if they would but listen. If they would but listen to the still small voice that has never stopped. The still small voice that's just within all of us, our own internal teacher that has never stopped inviting us to the light. So today I invite you to the light. Today I invite you to the love. And say yes. Say yes to all of God's gifts. Say yes to all of God's thoughts. No exception. God is love, and so are you. That is your true identity. And we're going to leave it right there. So that's Workbook Lesson 178. And we are only a couple of review lessons away, but getting back on our growing edge of new ideas. But all this is preparing us for what we are to learn. All this is reminding us of what we have already learned. And I am so happy. I am so happy to be on this journey with you. Thank you. Have a great day. And we'll be back on tomorrow with another review lesson out of the workbook lessons in A Course in Miracles. Selah.